Our board review for today, May 23rd, 2024. Just several preliminary matters. Uh, Everyone should understand that these proceedings are being recorded by a court reporter as well as the system itself. But the system only records one person at a time, and we're creating an official record of these hearings. So please wait, be patient as you're speaking. No one will be allowed to overtalk anyone else. Everyone will be given an opportunity to speak. And so please wait your turn. And if you have an issue, just wait and you'll be given an opportunity to respond. Secondly, this is an official proceeding as if you were in a courtroom. So please, you need to be dressed properly. No eating, drinking, smoking. Men should not be wearing hats. No reclining in your easy chair or in your bed. Please present yourself as if you were in the courtroom. Also, if you're driving in a vehicle, you must be stopped in a safe place. We will not hear your case if you're riding in a vehicle. It's dangerous. Plus, it creates a level of connectivity issues, and we can't always maintain a signal when you're moving in a vehicle. Persons who are represented by legal counsel, I'd advise you please pay attention to the lawyer you've hired to represent you today. And if you need some time to have a confidential conversation, please let us know that. We will give you a breakout room to consult with your attorney. We are hearing these cases today with a three-person panel, which is authorized by the Philadelphia Code. The panel will introduce itself as well as our other individuals who are working these matters today, after which we will hear from the law department. The law department will give us a list of all cases that have been resolved, some of which will be noted as moot or moot complied. I advise everyone who is an appellant, please pay close attention. We need you to understand that if when your address is called and is noted as moot or moot complied, your matter is done for the day. It's resolved. You may sign off. If you need to understand the difference between moot and moot complied, please call the office. An administrator will provide some additional detail. Every case will be given a fair opportunity to present every appellant rather will be given an opportunity to present their case.
I got it.
Okay. So we just ask that you pay attention. All of you were asked to be here at a certain time. However, we have not a long list today, but we have an important list today. So we just need you to be patient. You will have to wait your turn. Every case will be called in turn. So thank you very much. We will now introduce ourselves and we'll hear from the law department. Again, I'm Kenneth Woodson, board chair.
Ralph Pincus, board member.
Washington, board member.
Brad McSherry, board counsel.
Richard Wade, board administrator.
Very much. Who do we have from the law department this afternoon, rather?
Good afternoon, members of the board. Jim Kelly here on behalf of the city.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kelly. What do you have for us today?
Starting with number 10 on the list, 2023-908, 2525 North Bouvier Street, Rebecca Wilburn, moot.
Moot, okay, thank you.
Number 12, 2024-482, 3601 Island Avenue, CMU Construction Co. Inc. That's an agreement for a city affirm with a $750 fine.
Okay, thank you.
Number 17, 2024-734, 5025 McKean Avenue, Harry Beck, moot.
Moot, thank you.
And number 18, 2020-1771, 4829 Frankfurt Avenue, Martin Fisher. That's an agreement for a city affirm 60-day stay of enforcement.
60-day stay. Okay, thank you.
And I know that a few of my colleagues have matters as well.
Okay, well, as our normal procedures, that please use the raised hand sign, and that you will be called in order. Okay, Kristen Patcham.
Good afternoon, Chairman Woodson and members of the board. I received a call from the appellant on number 11 pertaining to 1645 South Isaminger Street. And they told me that this would be a continuance request. I was never CC'd. I don't know if the board received that. I also don't know who their attorney is, so I just wanted to call that to the board's attention.
Okay, I don't believe we received that request either. Did you receive a call from legal counsel or the appellant directly?
From the appellant or someone at their business. They didn't give me the name of the attorney, but they did say they hired one.
Okay. So what is your position in terms of whether this continuance should be granted?
I am not opposed to a continuance. That's fine. I was just more curious to see if council did in fact sign on to this call.
Okay. Is anyone present representing the interests of 1645 South Eisenmenger Street? It's representing Carmel Mattia doing business as CGI Construction Inc. CZI Construction Inc.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, if I may, I just want to confirm with Ms. Paschal, did she advise them that they need to have counsel if the matter is rescheduled?
Yes,
So
they
that
do.
they
They
know
do
to
know-
bring- Yes,
I apologize not to cut you off, Mr. Pincus. They do know that. I told them about that. That was why they were calling, because I had inquired who their counsel was. The individual I spoke with did say that Carmel Mattia, who I assume is the owner of the business, was sick. He had a health issue. So they do know that they need to have counsel.
Okay. So based on that, we will note this matter as continued. Actually, we need to put the full the appeal number, etc. Do it this way. Mr. Wade, would you read that case in, please?
It's case 11, hearing appeal ending 0481 1645 South Esminger Street.
And that's
Carmel-
Eisminger Street.
Eisminger Street.
Yep.
Carmel Mattia doing business as CGI Construction.
Okay, thank you. That will be noted as continued. Okay, Ms. Patchell, you have others?
Chairman Woodson, I did have number 8 to address. We could wait until the call of the list if you'd like. This is also an issue with council.
Oh, no, let's deal with it now. It's a preliminary matter.
Okay. So I did speak with Mr. Angelo Cameron yesterday, who was listed on the Blur schedule as the attorney for Mr. Glenn Brown, who owns Seth LLC, which is a junk removal company that was cited for dumping. Mr. Cameron informed me that he does not represent Mr. Brown. He was just assisting him in filing the appeal. I don't think he actually formally withdrew his notice. I know he's currently in the CJC. And I did speak to Mr. Brown. I CC'd him on an email to the board yesterday, informing him that he would need to have counsel, but I'm not sure what steps he took.
Okay, this is number 8, 2835 4500 Warnock Street. Glenn Brown. So is anyone present? Mr. Glenn Brown present? Mr. Glenn Brown.
I do see him on the call.
Okay. I see a name. I'm not sure. Sir, would you identify yourself, please? Mr. Glenn Brown, are you present?
I see a picture with a name on my screen.
Mr. Wade is the
He
individual.
is not talking.
Yeah, Mr. Wade, is that individual connected to us?
Yeah, but I think he's on a phone.
I know he's sitting there staring. There's an image and the person isn't moving. So let's do this. This is interesting. So Ms. Patcher, what we're going to do, as you suggested earlier, we're going to call this one in order in a moment, okay?
Okay, yes, Chairman Woodson.
Yeah, we'll come back to it. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, Jeffrey Cohen, please.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I have 3 preliminary matters for the board's attention. The first 2 of which are numbers 13 and 14.
Okay.
HA 2024 000-600 and then 601. They were both filed by Vernon Lucas. A few days ago, counsel Robert Vance emailed and wanted to consolidate these 2 cases on June the 6th with another case that also pertained to Vernon Lucas. The city had no objection, but I just wanted to know if the board addressed that in executive session.
Well, we did review it. We were waiting for the city's response on the record, so you're okay with
City
continuing
has
it
no
into June?
objection. We can
Okay.
put them all on June 6th.
Okay, fine. Noted that 0600 5971 North Norwood Street, Vernon Lucas, and 0601 2409 South Reese Street, Vernon Lucas, will be noted as continued to June 6th.
Thank
right,
you
thank
very
you.
much. The last matter that I have is actually number 1 on today's list, HA 2024 000469, Ishar Incorporated. There was a request this morning for a continuance, but the two things that I will note, the request did not come from the appellant's counsel, Chris Casario. It came from some other person. And two, the request was for the unavailability of what the person said was the appellant, but who turns out to be General Manager Andy Singh. The heart of this issue is actually the corporate form, is that Ishar with one H used to be the operator of this store that had this tobacco permit, and then Ishar with two H's came in and is not the same entity, the city contends. So the question that the city has, and the reason why the city for the moment objects to a continuance, is Andy Singh may not be a necessary witness.
Okay.
And
Have
as
you
this
had
is-
any communication with legal counsel?
Unfortunately, no. I have, as the board knows, I've reached out to Mr. Casario over email to the board and to Mr. Casario, and I have not had a response. Is
Okay.
Mr. Chris Casario here today on this Zoom?
Okay, let's ask Chris Casario, are you present? I don't have anyone responding. So I guess, Mr. Cohen, the city's opposed to a continuance. Is he
That's
still?
correct.
Okay. We have not heard from council. We did hear from someone, an unknown individual, who was not noted in the appeal documents, I assume.
Is anyone here today for Ishar Incorporated?
Okay, we don't see anyone responding. No one has stepped forward.
Appellant's
Okay,
address,
then
appellant's address was listed as 4708 West Gerard Avenue. Service was made to that address on April 10th, 2024. And for Chris Casario Law Firm, the attorney address was 1305 Marl Chris Road in Cherry Hill. Service was made to that address on April 10th, 2024.
Okay. Mr. Wade, would you spell the name of the appellant to which
I-
notice was sent?
ISCHAR Incorporated.
Okay, and is that
I
same
actually need
spelling on all the documents?
I apologize. I actually need to correct the record for that. The current licensee at that location is Ishar ISHHAR Incorporated. And the previous licensee as of 2019 is ISHAR Incorporated.
Okay. Well, since no one is responding either way.
Mr.
Yes.
Chairperson, I just would like to just note for the record, the continuance request came from an individual identified as Amina Perez, AMINAH, last name Perez, PEREZ, and the email address was Mina Perez, MINAPEREZ at quattremgmt.com. That's QUATREMGMT.com. There was no further identifying information in the email, but that email address is listed on the appeal form as both the email address for the appellant and for appellant's counsel. I just wanted to note that for the record, but there was
Okay.
no information identifying the relationship of that individual to this matter.
Okay.
And
So
actually,
the email
as,
address, just 1 second. The email address that was used is the email address that was given for both the appellant and appellant's counsel?
Correct.
Oh, boy.
which, as Mr. McSherry points out, this is why in my email a few days ago to Chris Casario and to this board, I used that email address and I used a Chris_Casario at Yahoo email address that I had found on Mr. Casario's website. Just
Okay.
making sure that it was reaching Mr. Casario and not just Quattro Management.
Okay. So in any event, no one is present. And none of these individual who asked for the continuance is not noted as the appellant and was not the person to whom we corresponded when we sent out the notices, correct? And we have no understanding of the connection this individual has to the project.
I would just state for the record, the only connection that we know of is the email address that was put on the appeal form.
Okay. So Mr. Cohen, what is your preference here?
The city would respectfully request that the continuance request be denied.
Okay, and if we deny the request, we'll call it in order and then we'll see, because I don't think anyone's currently present, so we will have to make a decision. So we'll
Of
deny
course.
the request for continuance and we'll hear it in order.
Thank you very much, members of the board.
Okay. Alrighty. I see hands raised from Ms. Nesich.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board members.
Afternoon.
Thank you. A couple of preliminary matters. Number two,
Yes,
8143 Farnsworth Street, HA 2024-000447. The appellant's name is Mark Glogowski. I received correspondence from Mr. Wade this afternoon. He forwarded a sort of informal email continuance request from the petitioner at 11 this morning. However, I see in the chat to everyone on the Zoom, a Mark G is here or was here and saying that they're having computer issues. So I'm not sure if the continuance was withdrawn, the continuance request was withdrawn, or if
Okay.
the
Well, let's
petitioner
do
will be
this.
here or not.
Okay, let's do this. What is your position in terms of the initial continuance request?
The city has no objections to the continuance if that's convenient for the petitioner. I'm just
Oh.
not sure what the status of their request is.
Okay. Since no one's present, no one else is, Mark Glogowski is not currently present, I don't believe. Mr. Wade, did you identify that name anywhere?
No.
Okay, so we're going to continue that in order to just keep it simple. We'll just continue, assuming the initial request was legitimate. We'll note it as continued. Okay.
Understood. Thank you.
All right.
Moving on to number 3. That would be 504 East Hilton Street, HA 2024-000650. Petitioner's name Loretta Weston. The Philadelphia Water Department rescinded the NOD, so we'd like to consider this matter moot.
Moot. Okay. Thank you.
Number 4, the city's ready to move forward with
Oh.
in the regular order of the list. And number 5, 2411 South Woodstock Street, HA 2024-000429. Petitioner's name Marion Fariallo. That's moot complied.
Moot complied. Thank you very much. Okay.
That concludes my portion.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Mr. Router.
Mr. Chair, before
Yes,
you
sir.
move on, there's a Loretta Weston sitting there. I don't think she understands that her case was just settled.
Okay.
I didn't understand. This is my first time being a part of this. I just was hoping to learn as I go because I
Sure,
do run
fine.
projects.
You're
Can I
welcome to
just listen?
stay. Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. This is a public forum, so
Thank
yeah,
you.
you're welcome to stay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's who's Mr. Router?
Thank you. May it please the board, Leonard F. Reuters, senior attorney for the city. On number 6 on the list, HA 2023-002606, 1303 Dickinson Street. That matter is moot complied. The streetery was removed.
Okay. Thank you very much. Moot complied.
And I would ask if there's anybody here for 1201 Frankfurt Avenue, the appeal filed by, that's number 7, appeal filed by Mr. Justin Myers.
Justin Myers or
Ye-
anyone representing Justin Myers present. And this is 1201 Frankfurt Avenue.
Yes, I mean, there were 2 issues here. One, I believe they should be represented by an attorney, although it was filed by Mr. Myers. Both the ownership and the establishment are corporate entities. But on the positive note, I have confirmed that in fact they have a streetery license application that has been reviewed and approved. So what I would ask is if this matter could be continued for whatever period of time, because it will be, it's almost certainly going to be moot complied within as little
Okay.
as a week or two.
So we'll note it as continued.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Which case is this, Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry, that was number seven.
Number seven. Number seven. Okay, thank you. I don't see any additional hands raised. If not, the board has several preliminary matters it would like to raise at this time. Okay. Number 8. And that's 2835. It's 4500 Warnock Street. And who's representing the city in this matter?
Good afternoon, Kristen Patchell for the city.
Ms. Patchell, the issue here is, I don't think there's anyone present. Mr. Glenn Brown did not respond. Okay, now he's raising his hand. Okay, you're muted, sir. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself, sir. Mr. Wade, he may need some help with that.
I did.
Okay. Okay, sir, identify yourself, please.
Glenn Brown.
Glenn Brown. Sir,
Yeah.
would you just raise your right hand so we can get you on the oath?
Okay.
Swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Okay, sir, do you have an attorney representing you for this hearing? You place your hand down, please.
Oh, he said he couldn't make it, but Angelo L. Carmerin, that's what I got.
Okay, and he's going to represent you for these hearings?
He said he couldn't make it to this hearing.
Okay, but in the future, if we continue
Yeah.
it, he will represent you in the future.
Yes.
And so is your request then that we continue this matter until he's available?
Not really. I want to proceed and get it done.
Oh, wait a
and
minute. Wait.
over. Oh,
If you have a lawyer and you want him to represent you, then you need to wait for your lawyer.
okay.
The consequences of our decisions can be consequential to your business. The other issue is that you are a corporation, right?
Yes.
So you're required to have a lawyer for these hearings.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Mr. Woodson,
Yes.
I'm sorry not to interrupt. I did want to make sure the board was aware. I spoke to Mr. Cameron yesterday, and based on our conversation, I was left with the understanding that he did not represent Mr. Brown, that he had just been assisting him, but he was not the attorney for this matter.
Okay. So there seems to be some confusion there. So let's
Yeah.
do this. Sir, we're going to, Ms. Patchell, you can give me your opinion, but I'll state the board's position is that we should continue this so that he can secure counsel, whether it's Mr. Cameron or someone else. Do you have any position on that?
I'm not in opposition to that. I think that would be the right thing to do.
Okay, Mr. Brown, you're going to need to hire a lawyer to represent you because you are a corporation.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so call Mr. Cameron back, tell him you need a lawyer. We require that to present before the board, and if he can't do it, hire somebody different.
Okay.
Okay? All right, the record was note that this matter has been continued.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, number 9, 4 digits 2898, 900 West Ontario Street, David Stewart, who's representing the city.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Jim Kelly on behalf of the city.
Mr. Kelly, my notes indicate that there's been a settlement in this matter.
Sort of. So I'm not sure whether the board would want to do this as a preliminary matter or as a just call it in the regular order. In effect, the city believes, based on Mr. Stewart's appeal and on conversation and through conversations with him, this is a short dumping case. We do not believe that Mr. Stewart is the person who actually committed the act of short dumping. So the city's plan is to have Mr. Stewart just testify very briefly as to what happened. It sounds, without getting into any detail, it sounds as though his car was stolen. And so the city just wants to get testimony of that on the record.
Okay,
And
Mr.
assuming that
Kelly.
happens, the city could then withdraw
Yeah.
the NOV.
Mr. Kelly, the board isn't inclined to just have a testimony in the record in that regard without being called upon to make a decision. If we aren't going to make a decision, we aren't going to hear testimony. But I ask you also, there's a council notice, Samuel Tony. Has that person been involved in your conversations?
So I was unable to contact that person. I did have contact with Mr. Stewart. I had called Mr. Tony's firm through the number that was listed on the he was not listed as the attorney on the appeal paperwork. There was a letter that was attached that Mr. Tony, the attorney, had sent to someone else regarding this case. When I called that number, I was told that he no longer works at the firm and that they weren't sure where he worked. And I
Okay.
was unable to otherwise get in contact with him. My understanding through Mr. Stewart is that he is not representing him for this case.
But Mrs. Stewart, is he a corporate entity, Mrs. Stewart?
I don't believe so.
Okay, but it appears that you worked out a way to resolve it. But if it's not going to be a decision by the board, then we really don't want to hear any testimony.
Sure, understood.
Okay, so we can mark it as continued until you resolve it.
That would be great.
Okay, so we'll note this is continued.
Thank you.
Okay, that completes our list of preliminary matters that the board has concerns about. Anyone else on the city law department have any issues before we move on to our regular order of cases? If not, we will call cases in order. Mr. Wade,
Case number 1, hearing appeal ending 0469 4708 West Gerard Avenue. Ishkar.
Okay. Okay, all right. I think Mr. Cohen, this is you up
That's
again.
correct. Jeffrey Cohen for the city.
Okay, anyone present representing Ishkar Inc., 4708 West Gerard Avenue? Anyone present?
Or Ishar, ISHHAR Incorporated.
Okay, anyone present representing the interests of the corporate entity doing business at 4708 West Gerard Avenue?
I hate to cut in, but
Yes.
could why have another spelling that name? Because I have ISCHA.
Yeah, there are
That
two
was the-
spellings. Yeah,
Sorry.
that was one of the issues just earlier. There are two spellings of that name, that entity. So we aren't sure which is the correct spelling. That's why he put both on the record.
So it is
Okay.
my understanding, the appeal form says ISCHAR. The actual licensee at that location currently is ISHHAR per the motor vehicle dispensing license and the hazardous materials license.
Thank you.
Okay, and basically, I know there was a request from someone who is not noted in our records to ask for continuance, but no one who's identified either the attorney or anyone else who, as would be a corporate officer, has asked for a continuance. So, Mr. Cohen, what is your preference here?
Hearing no response, the city would respectfully request a city affirmed for non-appearance.
Okay, Mr. Wade, can you confirm service, please?
Service was made both to the appellant at 4708 West Gerard Avenue, as well as attorney Chris Casero at 1305 Marlkiss Road in Cherry Hill.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pincus, what time do you have?
1:31 PM.
1:31 p.m. Okay, regarding HA-2024-0004 69 4708 West Gerard Avenue, Ishar Inc., city affirmed non-appearance.
City affirmed for non-appearance.
City affirmed non-appearance.
Thank you very much. Okay, what's next?
Thank you, members of the board. May I please be excused?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Wade, I think that's number 4 would be our next matter, I believe.
Case number 4, hearing appeal ending 0692 5919 Malta Street, Lydia Rios Cruz.
Okay, who's representing the city?
That would be me, Board Chair Melanie Nezich.
Okay, is anyone present representing 5919 Malta Street? Lydia Rios Cruz. Ms. Cruz, are you present? Ms. Cruz, are you present? Anyone else purporting to represent the interests of 5919 Malta Street? Anyone else present? Okay. Mr. Wade, can you confirm service?
Ms. Cruz indicated 5919 Malta Street on her appeal. Service was made to 5919 Malta Street on April 10th, 2024.
Okay, thank you very much. No one has responded. Ms. Nessich, what is your preference?
The city would respectfully request that this NOD be affirmed for lack
Okay.
of appearance.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Pincus, what time do you have?
1:32 PM.
1:32 p.m. We will poll the board on HA-2024-000-692-5919 Malta Street. Lydia Rios Cruz, city affirmed non-appearance.
City affirmed for non-appearance.
City affirmed non-appearance.
Thank you very much. Okay.
In
Let's
that case, Mr. Chair, can my
Yes.
witness, Miss Odessa Walker Frazier, be excused?
Yes, the witness is excused, and if this is
And-
your last matter, you may be excused as well.
Thank you. Before that, again, I see a Mark G here, and I'm just wondering if that is possibly the appellant, the petitioner in case number 2, the Farnsworth Street matter.
That's me, yeah.
Could I,
Uh,
since this matter was continued, could I possibly be put into a breakout room with
Yes,
the
please.
petitioner?
Yes, Mr. Wade, please provide a breakout room. Sir, please, are you prepared or willing to go in a breakout room with Ms. Nessich to discuss your case?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
that brings us to matter number 15. Hearing appeal ending 0790-2423 North 56th Street. Bruce Shishetta, doing business as Linda Shishetta.
Okay, who's representing the city?
Good afternoon, Board. Caitlin Carmody on behalf of the city.
Okay, already. Who's representing Bruce Shishetta? Who's representing Bruce Shishetta? 2423 North 56th Street.
I see the attorney on the call. I'm unsure if she's still muted. I don't see her camera though, but I see her name.
Okay, I do see a Linda Shishetta, but no one is responding. Mr. Wade, do we have a way to connect it, sort of get him a tap on the shoulder or something?
I'm sending them prompts now.
Okay.
There's 2 listings for her.
Okay. So, okay, we'll see what's happening here.
Excuse me, board, may I be excused?
Oh, yes, sir, your matter
That's
was
my first
resolved.
one. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, you make the excuse. Enjoy your afternoon.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Ms. Carmen, if we don't get a response shortly, we will have to skip over this matter and come back to it. So we
Understood.
don't hold up everyone else.
Okay.
Okay, as soon as Mr. Wade is complete his phone call, we will decide. Thank you all for your patience. Sometimes these things get a little wonky online. It appears that, oh, there it is. Okay, Mr. Wade, what do we have?
She's on a Mac. Someone's gonna reach out and help her. We can call the next matter while that gets resolved.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Carmody, thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Okay, where should we move on to?
Case number 16, hearing appeal ending 0806-2445 South Rosewood Street, Middle Atlantic Electrical Inspections.
Okay, who's representing the city?
Good afternoon, Amy Skiles on behalf of the city.
Good afternoon, Ms. Skiles, who's representing the appellant. We have counsel, I believe. Sir, you're muted.
Yeah.
Yes, Joseph Baraducci appearing in behalf of Middle Atlantic Electrical Inspections.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see here. Ms. Skiles, do you have a witness for today?
Yes, today I will be calling Inspector Robert Parisi.
Okay. Mr. Parisi, would you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You can place your hand down. Mr. Baraducci, do you have a witness for today?
We have two witnesses, Mr. Chairman. We have Richard Nugent, the inspector on the job, and also we have Claudio Bilas, who was the contractor.
Oh, he's the contractor? Okay. But both those individuals present, if they would unmute and identify themselves so they can be sworn.
Rich.
Hello,
Okay.
this is Richard Nugent.
Okay,
Jr.
if Mr. Nugent, if you and Mr. Claudio Bilas, if you would both raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God? Mr. Bilas?
Yes.
Mr. Nugent?
Yes.
All right, thank you. You can place your hand down. Now, there's some feedback in one of your lines. I'm not sure who that is. And so if you have multiple devices open adjacent to one another, you may need to close one of them. I'm not sure what's causing the feedback. This is how we will.
It may be that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We will proceed with the city presenting. Okay, Mr. Nugent and Mr. Bilas, if you could both mute yourselves for the moment. Okay. We will proceed by Ms. Skiles presenting her case and her witness. After which, of course, Mr. Baraducci, you had a right to cross-examine the witness. Sir, you will then be asked to present the case on behalf of your client. And of course, the city will cross-examine both those individuals. The board itself may have questions for all witnesses, as well as inquire of counsel, depending on the circumstance. After which, the board may confer privately, but we will hear a final argument from both counsels before we render decision. Oftentimes, Mr. Baraducci, the appellant's counsel goes first, and then the city's counsel will go last in terms of closing arguments. Okay? And if you need any opportunity to confer with your client, please let us know that. We will go off the record, allow you to have a conference in the breakout room to confer if you need that. Mr. Baraducci, you're muted, so you may need to unmute yourself.
I'm good.
Okay. All right, Ms. Skiles, please proceed.
I am unmuted.
Okay, Ms. Skiles, please proceed.
Yes, just briefly to open, I will have one witness, Inspector Parisi. He will discuss the violations that were issued due to an inspection that occurred for electrical permit EP 2023-007735. So Inspector Parisi, could you state your name for the record?
Robert Parisi,
And where are you currently employed?
City of Philadelphia.
In what department with the city?
I'm with Audits and Investigation, Chief Electrical Inspector.
And that's with the Department of License and Inspections?
Correct.
And how long have you been employed with the Department of License and Inspections?
Currently, it'll be coming up on 12 years in July.
12 years. And what are some of your roles and responsibilities as the Chief Electrical Inspector with the department?
My job is to audit the third-party inspection agencies to assure that they are doing their jobs to protect the contractor and the property owners.
Okay, and you mentioned third-party inspection agencies. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, the city currently has 14 licensed third-party inspection agencies that can do electrical inspections in the city of Philadelphia.
Okay, and so when an electrical permit is being worked through in the city of Philadelphia, a third-party agency completes that inspection.
Yeah, if it's new construction or rehabilitation where the property's totally gutted, they do a rough wire inspection when the contractor finishes his rough wire of the property. Then when the job is completed 100%, then he goes out and does a final inspection.
Okay, and so as part of your role with the department, you do an audit on some of those third-party inspections.
Yeah, I get called out when the building inspector gets called out to final his building permit. My supervisor assigns me an audit for a particular property, and I go out and proceed to do that audit inspection.
Okay, and so through the course of your duties with the department, did you become familiar with the property located at 2445 South Rosewood Street?
Yes.
And how did you become familiar with that property?
It was assigned to me by my supervisor, Ken Paralak. I forget the date, but I coordinated with the building inspector. We met on site. The building inspector did his inspection. I did my inspection.
And as part of your inspection, did you discover some violations when you did your inspection?
I always take a copy of the permit with me. I read the work description. And in this particular case, it said rewire the house, new service 100 amp. And I'm reading directly from the permit.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Inspector Parisi. We'll get to the permit, but if you could just my question was, when you did the inspection, did you issue a violation based on your inspection?
I did.
Okay. And with the board's permission, I would now like to share my screen.
Yes, please.
So Inspector Parisi, can you let me know when you can see what I'm sharing on my screen?
Okay, right now I see the licensing violation notice.
Okay, so you kind of answered my first question. What is this document that is identified as City Exhibit 3?
This is the violation notice where I go into my Eclipse and on that case file number, and I go into the violation section and I make notations of what I discovered on that particular project.
I understand.
Based on that, I upload the photos. Again, I document my findings, and then I send it to my supervisor for his review, who he in turn sends out the NOV.
Okay, and who was this license violation notice issued to?
It was issued to Middle Atlantic Electrical Inspection Agency.
And is Middle Atlantic Electrical Inspection one of those third-party electrical inspectors that you spoke about at the beginning of this case?
Yes.
Okay. And were they the agency tasked with completing the inspection under the permit EP 2023-007735?
That's correct.
Okay. And so when did you complete this, the inspection, the audit on this inspection?
I don't recall the date that I was actually out there. I do so many of them every day.
Okay. Can you see the date? The day
that the notice was February 8th. So typically, what I do is, February 8th, 2024.
Okay.
Typically, I go out either the day before, or again, it could have been late January by the time the notice got sent out by my
Okay.
supervisor.
But it was close to the time that this
Yes.
NOV was issued, this license violation notice was issued. Okay. I'd like to direct your attention to the description of your violation. What violations did you observe on your audit?
Well, as item number 1, I found when I removed the panel cover on the electrical panel that the neutral conductors were doubled up under one lug, which is not permitted by the code.
Okay.
I found NM cable, which is what we call in the trade Romex cable, which is an interior wire. It's not permitted to be outside. And even though it's in a flexible, non-metallic conduit, it's still considered to be a damp, wet location, and NM cable is not permitted in that environment.
Okay.
They also ran from the load side of the meter socket, they ran an SCR cable. And inside when I pulled the meter cover off the meter box, there's 4 conductors in an SCR cable. Typically, the electrical contractor will run what we call an SCU cable or a 3-conductor cable. It has 2 hot wires and a concentric bare neutral that's terminated. In this case, the SCR cable has 4 conductors in it. It's got 2 insulated hot conductors, an insulated neutral or grounded conductor, and it has a bare equipment grounding conductor. When I pulled that cover off, the bare equipment grounding conductor was just inside that meter cover, not terminated to anything, which it shouldn't be. However, it becomes a problem if that cable, that bare equipment grounding conductor, were to touch a hot terminal on that meter box. It would cause an arc flash or an arc blast condition, which could hurt somebody.
Okay.
And also, his permit stated that he was installing a 100 amp service when in fact there was a brand new 200 amp service installed. So
Okay.
they were the extent of my violations that I wrote.
Okay. And okay, so based on your observations, you issued this license violation notice.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. And so as part of your audit, did you review the electrical permit for this property?
I did.
Okay. And is the document labeled City Exhibit 2 a copy of that electrical permit?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so did you review the scope of work that was to be done under the electrical permit?
I did. Yes.
Okay. And sorry. So could you state what was the scope of work that was to be done as stated on the electrical permit?
All right. Rewire the house,
Okay.
new 100 amp service. And he states here, existing panel meter stay, parentheses, there is a new panel and socket, new switches, outlets, smoke carbon monoxide alarm according to the 2017 NEC.
Okay. And on your inspection, on your audit, did you take a number of photographs when you observed a violation?
I did.
Okay. So directing your attention to City Exhibit 3, this series of photographs, are these the photographs that you took at your inspection?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And so what is depicted in the first page of City Exhibit 3?
This is the actual photo of the address at the property I did my inspection at.
Okay. And we see that this inspection took place January 26th of 2024.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now moving on to the second photograph, what are we looking at in this photograph?
These, the white wires that you see are the neutral or
Okay.
grounded conductors. They are only, each neutral has to be terminated onto its own screw or lug, as we call it. They're
Okay.
not permitted to be doubled up. Now, the equipment grounding conductors, the bare copper you see below,
Yes.
excuse me, they are allowed to be doubled up. But the
Okay.
neutral conductors, as per NEC Article 408.41, requires that each neutral be terminated separately.
Okay, so can you see my cursor where my cursor's pointing?
No, I cannot.
Um,
Yeah, I can't, I see where you're, basically, it's really
Okay.
small, Amy.
okay,
Okay, I
but
see.
basically
Yep.
where these white wires are joined, that's the violation.
Yes,
Okay.
there's 2 wires under each one of those screws.
And that is the double
That's a
grounding of the
violation.
neutral.
That's not permitted, correct?
I understand. Okay, what are we looking at in this photograph?
This is the inspection sticker that was placed on the panel by the inspector approving the electrical, that permit.
Okay, and it appears from this picture that this inspection taken by Middle Atlantic was on January 19th, 2024.
Correct.
So you completed your inspection a week after their inspection.
Correct.
Okay. And so then directing your attention to this photograph, what are we looking at in this photograph?
This is the bottom of the meter socket, and you see the 4 conductors inside there. You see the red,
Mm-hmm.
the black, the white, and then that bare coiled up aluminum equipment grounding conductor.
Yes.
Yeah, that's creating a potential hazard inside that meter box. Because if you look, I don't have a cursor, I can't, if you, let's say, take a look, follow the black wire up to just below the meter, you'll see an aluminum, a cadmium, silver tab sticking out there.
Yes.
That is energized.
Okay.
So if that bare aluminum conductor were in any way, shape, or form to come in contact with that, it would cause an arc flash or an arc blast condition. And if somebody was in there working on it, it could harm them pretty good.
Okay. And now directing your attention to this exhibit, what are we looking at in this photograph?
This is the electrical disconnect for the HVAC condensing unit.
Okay.
This is electrical wiring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if you look at the conductor, the wire going out the bottom of that disconnect, you'll see an orange coating on that.
Yes.
That indicates to me that is what we call 10-2 NM cable, or Romex as we call it in the trade. That is not permitted to be in that flexible plastic conduit, because the Romex, the interior, has a paper covering. You can see that paper in the picture, that brown paper. What happens is in the summer, the winter, you get condensation builds up inside that flexible conduit, which creates moisture, and that paper can wick that moisture, and the conductors inside that orange jacket are not listed to be in wet or damp locations.
Okay. And so this box, is this positioned outside of the property?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, I understand. Okay. And so the electrical wiring that is running to this HVAC system, would that fall under the purview of the electrical inspection?
Absolutely, it would. It's electrical work. And it's required to be inspected. As the permit states, rewire the house. That's part of rewiring the house, putting in a new line for the outdoor air conditioning unit.
I understand. And so you issued your license violation notice to Middle Atlantic because you observed these inspections, you observed these violations January 26th that Middle Atlantic did not observe or catch on January 19th, 2024. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I want to walk you through the arguments that appellant made in their appeal about why these violations are incorrect. So the first argument the appellant makes is that the doubled up neutrals did not exist on the date of their inspection, that the installation was code compliant at the time. In your experience, within a week's time, would neutrals be doubled up like you observed in your inspection?
In my 50+ years of being in this trade, 40 as a contractor myself, doing 12 years of inspections with the city, I find on a regular basis that most of the third-party inspectors are not opening the panel covers up.
Okay, Mr. Parisi, I'd
yes.
ask you to respond directly to the questions that have been
Okay.
asked from Ms. Skiles
I'm sorry.
and
Yep.
not to wave her off to extra
Okay.
information. She's
Okay.
very good at asking direct questions, so follow her lead.
Okay.
Yes. So in your experience, would you expect if you observed neutrals that were doubled up on January 26th, do you think they were also doubled up on January 19th, the date
Objection.
Absolutely.
What's the objection?
Objection, pure speculation.
Okay, understood. Ms. Skiles, that will sustain that objection, and you need to rephrase that question.
I'll withdraw the question.
Okay.
I'll move on to the next argument.
Okay.
So the second point that the appellant makes is that the HVAC work was not done by the electrical contractor on the permit, and that it wasn't subject to the inspection by Middle Atlantic. But as you stated, it was electrical work, correct? The wires that ran to the HVAC?
Correct.
And so as electrical work, it does fall under the purview of the electrical inspection.
Objection,
Correct.
leading.
I'll rephrase.
Please.
Rephrase.
So I will back up. Is it electrical work that was done, the work to the HVAC?
Yes, it was.
And does that fall under the purview of the electrical inspection?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And why does that fall under the purview of the electrical inspection?
Well, as it states on the permit, is rewiring the house.
Mhm.
The electrical contractor, therefore, would be responsible to run the wiring to that disconnect and from the disconnect to the HVAC unit, as mechanical contractors are not licensed electricians and they are not permitted to do electrical work.
I understand. Okay, thank you. So moving on to the third point in the appellant's appeal, it says the scope of work described in the permit is an error. The permit refers to 100 amp. In fact, it is 200 amp. In addition, that installation already existed prior to the issuance of the permit. If a 200 amp service was in the property, what should Middle Atlantic have done when they observed that the permit stated 100 amp?
Oh, if that's in fact true, that brand new 200 amp service was there prior to, the contractor should have had his permit amended, and the third-party inspector, upon seeing it, should have recommended that the contractor amend his permit to read such.
Okay, so even if that service did pre-exist and it wasn't done by this contractor, Middle Atlantic should have recommended that the permit be amended to reflect that 200 amp.
Objection, Your Honor.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
What's the objection?
Leading the witness by
Okay.
her nose.
Okay, well, let's do this. Your
I'll
objection
rephrase.
is
I'll
noted. Yes, so please rephrase, please.
Yes. So the appellant's argument is that the 200 amp was already existing in the property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So should Middle Atlantic have recommended to the contractor to amend the permit?
Objection, that was
Yes.
not his testimony. He said the contractor should have amended the permit, not Middle Atlantic.
What should Middle Atlantic have done if they observed 200 amp wiring?
As an inspector, if he walks on a job site that he's going to take responsibility for and he sees a brand new 200 amp service, and if his contractor said he didn't install it, he should have recommended that he amend his permit, because God forbid if something happens, guess who's getting called into court? Middle Atlantic and the contractor, because they're the last ones on it. The contractor's permit clearly stated he was putting a new service in. So based on that, I see that he says he's putting in a brand new 100 amp service. I walk on the job site, see a brand new 200 amp service. I'm right in the violation.
Okay, that was my follow-up question. So the appellant's argument says that the 200 amp service had been installed prior to the issuance of the permit. However, if I go up to the electrical permit, does the electrical permit state new service 100 amp?
It does.
Okay. So either way, whether or not that 200 amp service was pre-existing and not done by the contractor on the permit, or if it was done by the contractor on the permit, did that permit need to be amended?
Yes.
And who should have failed the inspection with instructions to amend the permit?
The third party inspector,
And who is that?
Middle Atlantic Department.
Okay. So then, based on your review, the work that you observed, did it exceed what was stated on the permit?
Yes.
Okay. And how so?
Again, the permit stated that there was a new 100 amp service, when in fact, when I arrived on site, there was a new 200 amp service.
Okay. And based on your observations of the property on your inspection, the 200 amp service, did it appear newly installed?
Absolutely. It was brand new.
Brand new? Okay. So based on your inspection and your consideration of the appellant's arguments and their appeal, was your license violation notice correctly written?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions for Inspector Parisi. I will stop sharing my screen and I offer for cross.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baraducci.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Parisi, you indicated in your direct examination that you receive your assignments for audits from your supervisor?
That's correct.
You do not select the properties to audit, is that correct?
I do not.
Okay. Do you select the date on which you perform the inspection?
I do not. That date's assigned to me.
Okay. And in this particular case, as I understand from the photos that have been submitted by the city, that you conducted this audit on January 26, 2024. Is that correct?
I would say it's correct. Yes.
Okay. And that was, according to your direct testimony, about 7 days after the final inspection performed by the inspector for Middle Atlantic Electrical Inspections, which occurred on January, excuse me, 19th.
Correct.
Okay. So what you observed was something that existed on January 26th, not on the date of the final inspection on January 19th. Isn't that correct?
I wasn't there on the 19th, so I don't know what he actually saw and looked at.
That's not my question. My question is, what you observed on January 26th was not something you observed on the date of inspection. Isn't that correct?
I did not observe. I was not there on the 19th, so I don't know what he saw.
Right. So you don't know what conditions existed on January 19th because you weren't there. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did someone say something? No. Okay. Now, you indicated on your direct examination that if the 200 amp service was there previously, as indicated in the appeal, the notice of appeal, that the contractor should have amended the permit. Is that what you testified to?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. And you further indicated in your direct examination that the electrical inspector should have told the contractor to amend the permit. Is that correct?
That's correct as well.
Okay. And where is that rule that the electrical inspector should have done that? Is that in the code, in a regulation? Is it written?
It's not in the National Electrical Code, and I don't know that it's written in our legal bulletins. However, I do know that as an inspector, if I'm going to walk up on a job that I'm going to put my name on, and I see a condition where my permit that I'm inspecting says a new 100 amp service, and I physically see a brand new 200 amp service, and my contractor says I didn't put that in, I would recommend, just for liability reasons, that you amend your permit and we make sure this is done 100% correctly before you put your name on it.
So
because as a lawyer, you know what's going to happen if something goes wrong. Middle Atlantic's going to get called back in, and
Okay,
so is
Mr.
the contractor, and they're gonna
Parisi.
become liable.
Mr. Parisi, I would caution you to limit your testimony to your area of expertise, which is electrical inspection.
Okay, got you.
Okay, Mr.
So,
Barrera
Mr.
Ducey.
Yes. So,
Any
Mr.
additional
Parisi-
question? Yeah, go ahead. Please proceed.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Parisi, this is your rule. This is what you would have done. Is that right? If you were the inspector on the job?
Yes.
Yeah, that's your rule. It's not written in the National Electric Code. It's not written in the Philadelphia Code. And to your testimony was it's not written anywhere. So it's a Parisi rule, so to speak. Is that correct?
I can't honestly give you an answer on that.
Oh, okay.
I know that if we go out on a job site and the work is not what it says on the permit, it exceeds the permit must be amended to read the correct language.
Okay. And your testimony is the contractor had that responsibility. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I have no other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Skiles, any additional witnesses? Or
No
follow-up?
additional witnesses. I would just have a few brief questions on redirect.
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. So Inspector Parisi, typically when L&I completes a review of a permit, if what they observe doesn't match up to what's stated on the permit, L&I can fail that inspection. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Do third-party inspectors also have the ability to fail inspections?
They can fail it, so to speak, but they can't write violations. Basically, they can fail the inspection, tell their contractor to fix it, and move on from that point.
Okay, but they can say, at this point, based on my observations, this inspection has failed.
Yes.
Okay. And so I do want to just clarify the 200 amp service. It would have been the contractor's responsibility to amend the permit, but was it Middle Atlantic's responsibility to catch that mistake and instruct the contractor to amend that permit?
As an inspector, I would say yes.
Okay, thank you. No further cross, and I have no further witnesses, and no
Okay.
further redirect, and I have no further witnesses. I would just ask to move the city exhibits into the record.
No
Okay,
objection, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Exhibits are now part of the record. Thank you. Ms. Baraducci, your case?
I would like to call as my first witness the Inspector Richard Nugent, who is named in the notice of violation, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Nugent's been sworn, so please proceed.
Mr. Nugent, by whom are you employed?
Middle Atlantic Electrical Inspections.
And in what capacity are you employed by the agency?
Electrical inspector.
And how long have you been so employed?
Roughly 20 years.
And are you certified
Okay, Ms.
as an
Baraducci.
electrical inspector?
Mr. Baraducci, we're having some technical problems. Mr. Nugent's testimony is not coming through clearly. Mr. Nugent, is he in your office, Mr. Baraducci?
He's right. Yes, he's right on the other side of the table.
Well, he may need to move farther from you because it's creating an echo or some other problem.
I understand that. I'll rearrange the personnel if you'll
Okay.
give me a minute.
Sure.
Okay, is that better?
Well, if you need to be in a stationary place, so you need to be sitting or standing in one place. That does sound a bit better. So, Mr. Baird, if you could resume your questioning, please.
Thank you. If you don't, if with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'll repeat a
Yes,
couple
please.
of prior
Yes.
questions.
Yes.
Mr. Nugent, by whom are you employed?
Middle Atlantic Electrical Inspections.
And in what capacity are you employed?
Electrical inspector.
And how long have you been so employed?
Roughly 20 years.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, is the voice coming through better?
Let me check. Mr. Kelly, court reporter, are you getting all of that? You're muted, sir. Please unmute.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Chair. I was having difficulty unmuting. Yes, I am getting it. It is clearer. Thank you for that.
Okay. All right. We're in good place. Good. Thank you.
Mr. Nugent, did you in fact conduct the inspection at the subject property at 2445 South Rosewood Street?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity to review the violations that were noted in the notice of violation?
Yes.
Okay. And have you also reviewed the notice of appeal in this particular case?
Yes.
Okay. And I'd like to go through with you, as the assistant city solicitor did, the violations that are noted in the notice of violation. The first is, as Mr. Parisi pointed out, a doubled up neutrals are not permitted. When you conducted your inspection, both your rough and your final, were there doubled up neutrals at the property?
Not at the time of my final inspection.
Okay. And you're sure of that, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you look at the photo that the Mr. Parisi took and that you that has been admitted into evidence is marked as City Exhibit Page 7, Mr. Chairman? You were present when Mr. Parisi pointed out that the neutrals are doubled up on certain lugs. Did you observe that photograph?
Yes.
Okay. Was that the condition of the installation on the day you conducted your final inspection?
No.
But you do agree it is a violation, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
There was
And-
ongoing work there. When I had left, there was still continuous work being done by others, not by what I was there for, so I'm not sure.
Had there been a violation as shown in this particular photo, would you have taken the necessary steps to have it corrected? In other words, fail the inspection?
Yes.
Let's go on to the second violation that's noted in the notice of violation, and which Mr. Parisi testified to. And it says that an M cable not permitted in the flexible non-metallic conduit to the condenser disconnect. And do you recall that particular violation, Mr. Nugent?
I recall reading it, but that's
Okay.
not something I was
That's
there
what I
for.
mean. You recall it. You read it, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. And bear with me, Mr. Chairman. And have you reviewed the photos that the city has admitted into evidence, had admitted into evidence pertaining to the various violations? You looked at the photos?
Yes.
Okay. And the city exhibit, page 10, okay, correlates with the second violation in the notice of violation. Item number 2. Was that the condition that existed on the day of your inspection?
For the HVAC?
Let me read
Correct.
it to you. Let me read to you the violation that is noted by Mr. Parisi. NM cable not permitted in the flexible non-metallic conduit to the condenser disconnect.
That was
And-
not something that was wired there when I was there to inspect, because it was not a responsibility of my contractor. It was not on a permit for work to be done by him.
So that was not within the purview of your inspection, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, the third item in the notice of violation, I'll read it to you. SCR cable ran from load side meter socket to panel. Equipment grounding connector is not terminated and may come in contact with energized terminal. And I'm going to call your attention to the city's exhibit, page 9. Does that correlate with that violation? Did you look at that photo?
The picture and then the violation, they go together.
Okay, did that,
I was not there inspecting that because it was a pre-existing service. The service was there, it on the permit, that the new service was existing in meter socket. The contractor made a mistake of typo, 1 instead of a 2. But it was already stated also on the permit, everything was pre-existing, including panel.
it's stated on the permit, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's plainly shown on the permit. And did you have any obligation to inspect any pre-existing work that was not done by your contractor?
No.
And therefore, any pre-existing work is not within the scope of your inspection, is that the case?
Correct.
Okay. The fourth violation says the permit is exceeded. Permit is exceeded. Permit states that 100 amp service, period. 200 amp service was installed. Is that a correct statement?
I don't know, because there was existing service already there.
So the fourth violation is kind of interconnected with the third violation. The 200 amp service, was it installed by your contractor?
No.
Okay. And was it within the scope of your inspection?
No.
Okay. Now I'm going to strike that, Mr. Chairman.
Mm-hmm.
Numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 identify conditions that Mr. Parisi saw on January 26th. Did those conditions exist when you performed your final inspection?
No, not in the way that it's worded, no.
Okay. I have no other questions of this witness, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Skiles, any cross?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Nugent, you completed your final inspection on January 19th of 2024. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you take photographs when you completed your final inspection?
No.
Okay. So you don't have any photographs to show the board today that the neutrals were not doubled up?
Not a requirement.
It's okay.
It's not a requirement or a requirement.
Okay, that's fine. So, but it's your testimony that on your inspection, the neutrals were not doubled up when you completed your inspection January 19th of 2024.
Yes.
Okay. And you testified that there was still work being done to the property, but no more electrical work?
Yeah, there was guys working there. I don't know what they were doing. People were there working, but nothing. No electrical contractors.
No electrical contractors. But it would be your testimony today that someone doubled up the neutrals after January 9th, between January 19th and January 26th.
I have no idea when anybody did anything, but it was not like that when I was there.
Okay, but you would agree with me, your inspection took place January 19th of 2024.
Right.
And the neutrals were not doubled up.
Correct.
Inspector Parisi's inspection took place January 26th of 2024. And
Yes.
And you said you reviewed the photographs and you agree that at that date, the neutrals were doubled up.
Yes.
Okay, so that had to be done between January 19th and January 26th.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so it's also your testimony that the HVAC work was not under the purview of this permit that you were inspecting.
Correct.
With the permission of the board, I would like to share my screen.
Yes, please.
Okay, so the purview, Mr. Nugent, can you let me know when you can see what I'm sharing on my screen?
I got it.
Okay, so you would agree with me that the approved scope of work, under the approved scope of work, it says rewire the house.
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to go down to the picture of the HVAC unit. Would you agree with me that this is electrical work?
Yes, but yes, it is electric, but not always required, done by electrical contractors. HVAC guys install them, electricians install them, both.
Mm-hmm. But you heard, did you hear Inspector Parisi's testimony where he said HVAC contractors are not allowed to do this type of electrical work? This has to be done by an electrician.
That maybe in the city of Philadelphia, they're not allowed for an inspection. Do they do it there in other places? Yes, 100% they do.
So the address,
Does not fall under a criteria of rewiring a house because it's not required as a rewire of a house.
Mhm.
And rewiring a house is limited to what the homeowner wants to rewire. It does not mean it's got it top to bottom.
okay, but you would agree that the photograph we're looking at, City Exhibit 10, this displays electrical work,
It displays electrical wire.
electrical wiring. Okay.
That doesn't mean it's electrical work.
Okay. So you also said that, so you agree with me that the permit says new service, 100 amp. Is that what the permit says?
That's what the words there to say. Yes, new service, 100.
Okay. And it's your testimony.
It says 100 amp. With new service, 100 amp existing panel and meter stay. There is new panel and meter socket, meaning that it's already there.
The panel meter is there, but it
No,
says,
it's there. The whole service was there.
why does it say new service?
It was existing, as he says, existing. He's saying existing. The service is the entire complete work.
So
it's
that's,
already existing.
I'm
There's a
asking,
service.
Okay, Mr. Nugent, as I explained to everyone before we began the hearings today, these proceedings are being recorded by a court reporter. You must listen to the question before you begin answering.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And answer in complete sentences, and then allow Ms. Skiles or any other attorney to ask you additional questions. Okay?
Sorry.
Okay. Now, let's start over again.
yes, okay, so Mr. Nugent, I'm specifically asking here just what the permit, the words say. I'm not asking about your observations. I'm just
Okay.
asking what the words on the permit say.
Say.
So this,
Objection,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, the document speaks for itself.
Yes.
That
I'm-
objection is overruled. Wait a minute. That objection is overruled. I would direct Mr. Nugent to clearly, specifically respond to the very direct question that Ms. Skiles has asked. So please ask it again, and Mr. Nugent, please respond.
Mr. Nugent, would you agree with me that the permit says new service 100 amp?
I'll stipulate to that. Mr.
No,
Chairman.
Mr. Baraducci, that stipulation is not going to work. I want to hear from Mr. Nugent.
Okay.
Okay, she has to finish this complete sentence though, because she's only part of it.
I'll finish. Okay, let me rephrase it. Would you agree with me, Mr. Nugent, that this permit says new service 100 amp? That's all I'm asking for this question.
Yeah, yes, it has those words on there.
Okay, and it says existing panel meter stay.
Correct.
Okay, but upon your observation, you observed an existing 200 meter service.
Did I observe an existing 200 meter service?
Yes.
Yes, I did an existing 200 amp service, correct.
Okay, but you would agree with me that an existing 200 amp service is not what the permit states.
Yes, because of a type.
Okay. Brief indulgence.
Sure.
I have no further questions for Mr. Nugent. Thank you.
Okay, before Mr. Nugent steps down, wait. Before Mr. Nugent steps down, some members of the board may have questions. Mr. Baraducci, did you have some redirect you wanted to use?
Just one or
Yeah,
two.
you do that, and then we'll see if anyone else
Yes.
has a question. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Mr. Nugent, did you prepare the wording on this permit? Did you type it up?
No.
Yeah. Who types up the wording on a permit? Who does that?
Contract, the person who's applying for it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Nugent before we move on to the next witness? Okay, I do have a couple questions, Mr. Nugent. Um, were you and Mr. Parisi at the property together during either of your inspections, during yours or his?
No,
Okay. The second question is this, how do, okay, it's clear that the documents indicate 100 amp service. So when you arrived and saw a 200 amp service in place, did you do any investigation as to determine why that existed?
no, I did not.
Okay, so you didn't attempt to,
I noticed.
pardon me?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
You want to add to your answer?
Yeah, because I did not notice the typo, but I saw there everything was existing already. So
Why
I
do you
did
use
not
the
notice
words? Why do you use the term typo?
typo because it was.
How do you know that?
I'm sorry,
How do you know there was a typo?
because when I spoke with the contractor afterwards, after this was brought to my attention from the
Oh,
city,
okay.
I knew ahead of time, and then when I get this paperwork, hence why we're here is because I'm not going to answer to someone's for a mistake of a typo as me not my work.
So in effect, you didn't do that investigation during your inspection, and you only became aware of the what you're calling a typo after the violation was served.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And just, I think I may have one additional question here. Okay. When you do an inspection and you do a complete rewire as this was, and there is an HVAC a component which includes exterior compressors, etc. Do you normally include that inspection in your inspection report?
Now, if it's not, if I'm not there inspecting it for my contractor or the permitted work, I'm not there for that.
And your view is that the HVAC installation was not part of the contracted work and the permitted work?
Correct.
And so, if in your view, for that to be part of your inspection, someone should have applied for a HVAC installation?
Yes.
And does the inspection of HVAC installations fall under your purview?
When it's done by an electrical contractor.
If it's done by the HVAC contractor, would it fall under your purview?
As a permit for the work, yes, I do.
Pardon me?
If he has a permit for the work, yes, I will.
Okay. Do you know if a HVAC permit was pulled for this address?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question, Mr. Chairman.
Does he know if a HVAC permit was pulled for this address?
No, we don't have access to look all that up.
Oh, I'm not asking you that. I just asked you, did you know?
No, I have no idea.
Okay. All right. That's an answer. Okay. Thank you. All right. There's no other questions.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
I have a question, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
So we had two board questions. So we let those play out before we come in, Ms. Skiles. Mr. Pincus?
I'm not sure if I'm getting the description correct, but there was a photograph that Ms. Skiles presented which showed a red, a white, a black cable, and then an uncovered, I believe, aluminum cable in the box. And that uncovered aluminum cable was not attached or connected or grounded. It was just in the box. And as I understand the description that Inspector Parisi confirmed, that particular cable could possibly come in contact with an exposed area on the black cable and create a hazardous condition. That's my understanding of what I observed from one of the photos and the testimony that was presented. Did you see that same photograph, and did you see that same condition when you made your inspection, Mr. Nugent? I assume you saw the photo. Did you observe that same condition when you made your inspection?
No, because we do not. I did not have to open up the meter socket. I was not there to inspect that.
So
It was
Not
existing.
that that condition wasn't present, you did not observe, you did not look or inspect that particular condition.
Correct. I was not there to inspect that.
If you had inspected it, would you have found that to be a violation?
Of course, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Washington?
Mr. Nugent, you just testified that you didn't even open up the box. Am I correct?
The meter socket, I did not open the meter socket. No,
Why not?
because I was
as electrical inspector and all, why wouldn't you check to make sure that everything is okay?
because I was not there to inspect existing equipment that was all there.
So you really don't have a clue what was going on in there. So you're just gonna sign off on whatever. Am I correct?
No, that's not true.
Who prepared the paperwork?
I didn't hear the question. May I have it repeated, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Ms.
Who
Washington?
prepared
Yes.
the paperwork? Who prepared the paperwork that was submitted? Where he's stating they had the typo on. Who prepared the paperwork?
Mr. Nugent, I believe he's asking you who prepared the permit.
Prepare the permit work.
We didn't hear your answer at all. Maybe it is a connectivity issue. We didn't hear you.
I
Please
don't apply for the permit work.
Okay,
Well,
so
my
your
question-
answer
my-
as to
no,
who
no, my question was, who did?
I don't, I guess the contractor, the permit holder, I don't know because I don't prepare the permit work. I don't know.
So you don't go over the paperwork to make sure that it's correct.
Yes, I do, but I don't know who prepared this one.
So you went over that paperwork to make sure that it's correct before you went out to do the job. But you didn't notice that it had a 200 amp instead of a 100 amp that you're claiming is a typo.
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
My question is, you did not check with the paperwork to the job that you had to do before you went out and did the job.
As far as what are you pertaining to? What did I
I'm
not?
saying to you got the paperwork to do the job, and you went out to do the job, and you did not check to make sure that the paperwork was in order before you did the job. And I'm trying to find out why not.
Well, what part of the paper? I don't understand what part of the paper. What do you mean by that? I'm confused. But what is your specific question?
Well,
Why
wait,
did you
wait.
decide to-
Yeah, maybe we can help out here because we want to move on a little bit. Mr. Nugent, I believe Mr. Washington is trying to understand whether or not you compared the permits that had been pulled to determine when you got there if it matched the site that you saw when you got to the site. Did you check that? Mr. Washington, am I clear? Is that
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, and apparently I made a mistake and missed a typo from 100 to 200 because I did not see that until it was brought to my attention. But it was on there that everything was already existing.
But just to be clear, it wasn't already existing, correct?
It was already existing. It was.
So the 100 was already existing?
Oh, the service that was there now is already existing. It was a 200 amp existing service already there.
So what did you do? Since you didn't have to do the service, what did you do?
I inspected the wiring inside when they put new lights in and switches, general purpose. That's all they did, general purpose.
Mr. Chair, no more questions.
okay? Thank you. Alrighty. And I think Ms. Skiles had follow up.
It was along the same lines as Board Member Washington. So Mr. Nugent, you did state that you weren't aware of the typo until the violations that were issued by the department But you said that's just something you must have missed in your initial review of the permit.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I have nothing further.
Okay,
That-
thank
I
you.
guess I have one more question.
Yes.
Mr. Nugent, if I may, isn't there a substantial difference between a 100 amp service and a 200 amp service? I live in a house where when I bought it, it had a 100 amp service. I bought it 40 years ago, 44 years ago, and I remember paying what I thought was a lot of money back 40 some years ago to up the service to 200 or 200 amp. Isn't there a substantial difference if you were to look at the wiring and at the box between a 100 amp service and a 200 amp service?
They're the same way, wired exactly the same. They're just size as far as ampacity and amount of breakers, that's all. But they're still wired the same correct way.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Berlucci, do you have any additional witnesses?
Yes, but I'm, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like a few follow-up based on what's been asked. a few-
Okay, sure. Please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Nugent, do you help anybody prepare a permit when they go to the city and apply for a permit application? Do you prepare it?
Never.
Okay. So the person that's seeking the permit is the person that's going to do the work. Is that the case?
Yes.
Okay. And in this particular case, the permit application that we see here filled out was done by the contractor. Is that the case?
I would assume so. I don't know who fills out the permits. I don't.
All right. When you receive the paperwork to conduct your inspection, your purpose, and correct me if I'm wrong, your purpose is to conduct an inspection of the installation that was described in the permit. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. You can't go beyond the scope of the permit, can you?
No.
Okay. And you can't amend a permit, can you?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any additional witnesses, Mr. Berlucci?
Yes, I have one additional witness who is the contractor, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
And that would be Claudio Bilas.
Okay, please proceed. Mr. Bilas has been sworn. Please unmute Mr. Bilas.
Are you on mute, Claudio?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Bilas, what is your occupation?
Electrical contractor,
And how long have you been an electrical contractor?
7 years.
Are you licensed by the city?
Yes.
Okay. And did you conduct the installation, which is the subject matter of this hearing at 2445 South Rosewood?
Yes.
Okay. And you're aware of the violations that Mr. Parisi described in the notice of violation, correct?
Correct.
And you reviewed the photographs as well that were submitted by the city?
Correct.
Okay. Let me review the violations with you, Mr. Bilas, if I might. The first violation reads that there's doubled up neutrals, which are not permitted and which are shown on the photograph, which is identified as City Exhibit page 7. Did you install those doubled up neutrals?
No,
Okay. So when Mr. Nugent conducted an inspection of your work, you had not done that, correct?
correct.
Okay. The second violation says NM cable not permitted in flexible non-metallic conduit to the condenser disconnect. Did you review the photograph that's associated with that violation?
Correct.
Okay. And is that the way you installed it, subject to Mr. Nugent's inspection?
No,
Okay. Do you know who did that work?
no, I don't know.
Do you know who doubled up the neutrals?
I don't know.
Were there other contractors on the job?
Say again?
Were there other contractors on the
Yes.
job, like say a general contractor?
Yes,
Okay. And they were doing work at or about the same time that you did your electrical work?
correct. Correct.
Okay. And the third violation reads that SER cable ran from the load side meter socket to the panel. Equipment grounding conductor is not terminated and may come in contact with the energized terminal. Did you review the photograph that describes that violation?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the way you install that work?
No,
Do you know who installed that work?
I don't know.
Okay. And the final violation on the notice of violation is that the permit is exceeded, meaning that the scope of meaning that the work was done that went beyond the permit. Do you understand that?
Yes,
Yeah, okay. And it says the permit states 100 amp service, 200 amp service was installed. Is that correct?
correct. Is a error from me about typing the number 200 amp. I put 100 amp. That was an error from
Was
me,
that a mistake on whose part?
on me.
From you.
From you.
Okay, so it should not have read 100 amp, right?
I should type 200 amp.
And was the 200 amp installed by you?
No,
Was it pre-existing
correct.
before you got there to do your work? Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So would the conditions that are described in the notice of violation and as shown on the photographs, would they have been there for Mr. Nugent to inspect?
Can you repeat it?
Yeah. You reviewed the photographs, did you not? You
Right.
reviewed the photograph. You looked at it.
Right. Right.
As far as you know, are those the conditions that you left for Mr. Nugent to inspect?
No,
Okay. Do you agree that in fact, whoever installed or whoever made that installation, that those in fact are violations of the code, the
Yes.
NEC,
yes, I agree.
but not installed by you and subject to inspection by Mr. Nugent, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no other questions of this witness on direct.
Thank you. Ms. Gauss, you have any questions?
Yes, just briefly.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Bilas, so it's your testimony today that you did not complete any electrical work after January 19th, 2024.
Correct.
Okay. But would you agree with me that the pictures that were displayed as part of these cities exhibits do depict electrical work?
I didn't understand that question.
If the board would allow me to share my screen.
Yes, please.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Bilas, can you see what I am showing you on my screen?
Sure.
Okay. So, and you would agree with me that as Inspector Parisi testified, this depicts the doubled up neutrals.
Yes.
Okay. So would you agree that this photograph depicts electrical work?
Yes.
Okay. But it's your testimony that at some time between January 19th and January 26th, someone else doubled up these neutrals.
Say again, repeat it, please.
Your testimony today is that between January 19th and January 26th, some other contractor doubled up these neutrals.
Correct.
Okay. Were you the only electrical contractor on the job?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
So some other contractor who's not an electrical contractor completed electrical work on the property. That's your testimony.
Say, other contractors, say again?
Some other contractor who is not an electrical contractor completed this electrical work.
I don't know.
On the property.
I don't know.
You don't know. But your testimony is that you did not complete this work.
Correct.
And that you were the only electrical contractor on that permit.
Correct.
Okay. And it's your testimony that you did not complete this work, the HVAC wiring.
Correct.
Okay. Would you agree with me that this depicts electrical work?
The wiring, yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. And now I want to talk to you about the permit. So I know you said that you completed a typo and that 100 amp should have read 200 amp and that it was an existing service.
Correct.
So you made a typo with the 100 amp. Did you also make a typo when you specified new service?
It was new. It was a new service.
It was a new service.
It was new service. Everything would it was new. It don't need to replace it. To run new like.
Okay. So you meant to say there was a new existing service in the property.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Okay.
I never run a SCR cable. Robert Parisi is right on that thing. I never run a SCR cable from the meter socket to the panel. Only when it's a disconnect.
Okay.
We know that, yeah.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Bilas.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions of Mr. Bilas?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bilas, what work did you do?
Say again?
What work did you do?
Electrical.
What? What did you do? Electrical could mean a whole lot of things. Electrical could mean you changed the light socket. What did you do in the property?
Oh, in the property. Rewire the property.
And what did you do to rewire the property?
Run the wires. Install the wires to the panel.
What did you run them to?
From the panel to the sockets, to the outlet switches.
So you saw it was a 200 socket when you was running, I mean a 200 amp panel when you ran the wires.
Correct.
So you came prepared to do a 200 amp wiring system, correct?
Say again?
You came prepared to do the job. You came prepared to do the job. If it was a 200 amp, you would have did it differently, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm assuming since you knew it was 200 amp, you brought the correct equipment.
It was 200 amp, correct.
So did you do the work yourself or did you have somebody else do it?
Myself and my guy.
Yourself and your guy?
Yes,
And you are an electrical contractor in the city of Philadelphia?
correct.
No more questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bayless, I do have a couple questions for you. Is it your company that submitted the electrical permit?
Correct.
Okay. Can you explain why you included on that permit a new service?
Explanation that is a new service, don't need to be replaced.
No. When you submitted a permit for electrical work, the price of the permit depends on the extent of the work, correct?
Correct.
When you add things like add a new service, that increased the cost of the permit, correct?
Correct.
Why would you include new service, thereby increasing the cost of your permit if you weren't going to install a new service?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm asking you why.
Why increasing the price when I install new service?
No. Why did you include a work item of installing a new service?
I mean, I didn't get that question.
Well, I'll ask it again. You've agreed with me that the cost of an electrical permit depends upon the number of items on the permit, the extent, the scope of the work. And if you were not doing a new service to the property, why did you include that, thereby increasing the cost of the permit to you, the electrical contractor?
I'm not charging the clients by that.
I'm not saying that you would. I asked, but you as the electrical contractor has to pay the permit fee, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm asking why you included the installation of a new service if you did no intentions of installing a new service.
He didn't. It says.
Mr. Nugent, you're not being questioned now. So please do not interject.
I am sorry.
I mean, I don't include that to explain the price. I mean, I don't know the question that you're asking.
Yeah, I'm being very clear, but let me ask you a different question. Do you always include new service whenever you pull electrical permit?
I include when is an existing
I asked a different question, sir. No. Listen to my question. My question to you is that when you are rewiring a property, do you always include installing a new service as part of the scope of work?
Yes.
You always do, regardless.
Yes, I include when I do a new service, and I include even when the service is existing, I put on a typing that is existing, is in good condition, I put that on typing.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anyone else have any questions?
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, what we will do then is that we will hear final argument from Mr. Baraducci and then from Ms. Skiles before we deliberate and render a decision. Mr. Baraducci?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that this case boils down to a very simple question. Did these conditions exist on the date of Mr. Nugent's testimony? We've heard a lot of testimony from Mr. Nugent, Mr. Bilas, and we've heard questions centered around the preparation of the permit, the wording in it, the mistakes that were explained here. And that's nice, and that's informative, but it's not the issue that's before the board. The issue before the board is quite clearly, did Mr. Nugent observe these conditions on the day of his final inspection on January 19 and passed it? That's what the notice of violation says. I call board's attention to that. That what Middle Atlantic vis-a-vis Mr. Nugent is alleged to have done is that he went to this property for his final inspections, his roughing his final, and he saw the 3 conditions portrayed in the photos and described in the notice of violation and passed it. Therefore, violating the code. And our argument simply is that's not the case. As the assistant city solicitor pointed out, someone made changes between January 19th and January 26th. The contractor clearly testified, regardless of his mishaps on the permit application, that that's not the way he installed it. If that's not the way he installed it, then those aren't the conditions that existed when Mr. Parisi conducted his audit. And Mr. Nugent did not observe those conditions when he conducted his final inspection and issued an approval. That, I believe, is the issue before the board, not whether a mistake was made on the permit. Do you usually do this, or should you have done that? As Mr. Parisi said, I would have told the contractor to go back and amend his permit. Well, maybe he would have. Maybe another guy would not have. Those are all peripheral matters. The question before this board is whether or not those conditions existed on January 19th, such that Mr. Nugent passed them after he observed those conditions. And the weight of the testimony is clearly in favor of the appellant. You have the contractor who said, I didn't do it that way. And you have the inspector who said, that's not what existed on the day of my inspection. Nobody can testify what existed on January 19th, other than the contractor, the permit holder, the contractor, and the inspector. The city cannot produce any evidence whatsoever, and has not, because it can't. Say, well, no, that's what existed that day, and Mr. Nugent blew the inspection. You haven't heard that. And nor does Mr. Parisi admit, I don't know what the condition was on January 19th. I wasn't there. So the weight of the evidence clearly is on the side of the appellant, simply because the city does not have it within its purview to present any evidence as to what the condition was on the date of inspection and whether or not they approved existing violations, when in fact, just the contrary, the weight of the evidence is clearly in favor of the appellant. And I would ask that the board find that there be no violations and rule in favor of the appellant. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Gauss?
Yes. So in the city of Philadelphia, the department licenses third-party electrical inspectors to inspect certain electrical permits. And we rely on those inspectors to do a thorough job. If they are not doing a thorough job, the department has a responsibility to issue violations so that that inspector is on notice that we know they've missed something. We have a responsibility to protect the citizens of Philadelphia and issue those violations to third-party inspectors who are missing violations of the Philadelphia Code. Here, we're not contesting that Mr. Nugent is not the person who drafted the permit. There's no debate about that. However, Mr. Nugent was responsible for inspecting that permit, and he's responsible for inspecting the scope of work that was stated on the permit. And if I may share my screen just once
Yes.
again to show that permit. Okay. Okay. So once again, we know what the permit said. We know that the permit, the approved scope of work for the permit was to rewire the house, the entire house. There is nothing in here that limits the scope that says we're only rewiring X, Y, and Z. It's very broad, rewire the house. We know that the permit says new service, 100 amp. We know that it says existing panel meter to stay. I think it's important that if there was an existing service, they could have specified existing service. But even if this is a typo, even if there was an existing service, even if it should have said 200 amp and there's a typo, it's Mr. Nugent's responsibility to inspect what the permit says. And if Mr. Nugent had reviewed this permit carefully, he would have been looking for a new 100 amp service, and he would have inspected for a new 100 amp service. No one is debating that when Mr. Nugent conducted his inspection, what he saw was a 200 amp service. I think there is evidence presented to the contrary, whether it was new or existing, but either way, all parties admit that this was a 200 amp service that existed in the property. And what's stated on the permit is a 100 amp service. That alone is a city affirm for the violations. There's no debating that on January 19th, there was a 200 amp service. And on January 19th, the permit said 100 amp service. That did not change between January 19th and January 26th. To believe appellant's other arguments that they first to address the HVAC work, that this was not under the scope of their inspection. Again, the permit was for the house, the entire house. This includes all electrical work. As Inspector Parisi testified, HVAC contractors are not allowed to run those wires to the HVAC system. That is under the purview of the electrical contractor. That is under the purview, therefore, of the electrical inspector, especially when the permit states rewire the house. We also know, and no one is contesting, that at Inspector Parisi's inspection, the neutrals were doubled. Everybody admits that today. The argument is that it was done somewhere between January 19th and January 26th by someone other than an electrical inspector. And if we look at the evidence today, we have no photographs from January 19th. We only have photographs from January 26th. So I would say the weight of evidence here is by far in favor of the department. We know that what Inspector Parisi inspected during his audit on January 26th was a violation, that he issued those violations to Middle Atlantic properly. And even if the board were to believe that some other contractor completed some work and doubled the neutrals and added wiring to the HVAC, there's been no one to contest today or say otherwise that what was listed on the permit was a 100 meter or 100 amps new service, and what the testimony was from the Mr. Nugent, what he inspected was a 200 meter pre-existing service. That alone is a city affirmed for the violations. So we are asking the board today to affirm Inspector Parisi's license violation notice. I think it is very clear that when he wrote this notice, his actions were proper, and we'd be asking the board to affirm that notice today.
Thank you. I'd invite the board to join me in deliberations. We're going to go off the record for a few moments and come back and announce our decision. Excuse. Ms. Giles, you're excused unless you have further matters with us.
Thank you. Inspector Parisi, you're also free to go.
Yes. Have a good afternoon, sir. All right. Thank you, Mr. Baraducci. You excuse. You muted, sir, unless if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
You're still muted.
Without my glasses on, I can't see it.
Oh, okay. All right. Have a
Thank
good
you,
afternoon.
thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Have a good afternoon.
Okay. Mr. Wade, do we have any additional matters?
Case number 15, hearing
15?
appeal ending 0790, 2423 North 56th Street. Bruce Sachetta, doing business as Linda Sachetta.
Okay. Who's representing the city?
Good afternoon, Caitlin Carmody on behalf of the city.
Okay, Ms. Carmody, do we have any, Ms. Linda Cicchetti?
Good afternoon. I'm Linda Sacchetta, and I am the attorney appearing for Berlin Properties.
Okay, thank you. Well, just for clarity's sake, ma'am, the appellant is Bruce Sachetta doing business as Linda Sachetta.
Yeah, that's incorrect. It's Bruce Sachetta LLC, and my husband Bruce Sachetta and I are co-owners of the business.
Okay, so that's Bruce Sachetta LLC. That's the appellant.
No, Berlin Properties LLC. That's the name responsible party on the violation notice. There's all
Okay.
kinds of variations of our names going around the city like that.
Okay, well, you will need to clarify for us because it's important to us that we make sure we had proper parties served and proper parties appearing before us. So how are you spelling Brulin?
BRULIN Properties LLC.
Okay,
Where
now,
are you?
well,
where
but
are
before you proceed, what is the relationship of Brulin Properties to this address, 2423 North 56th Street?
That's a job site.
That's a job site. So you do not own that property.
Yes,
You do own that property.
yes.
Okay, so Brulin is the owner of record of 2423 North 56th Street.
I am the owner of record of 2423 North 56th Street. Berlin Properties LLC is the contractor.
Okay, who was the violation issued to?
Berlin Properties LLC.
And this is okay. So and what is and your role in Brulin Properties? You're one of the owners of you're one of the parties of the LLC. Is that correct?
Correct.
Who's the other party?
Bruce Sachetta, my husband.
Okay. Alrighty. Ms. Carmody, any concerns regarding the parties served and the parties who need to be present?
I have no concerns to go forward now.
Okay. Ms. Sachetta, do you have any witnesses?
No, I don't.
Okay. Now are you're representing okay, as an attorney, you're representing so we generally don't like the attorneys testifying, and so we ask that they bring witnesses to get things on the record. So
I
that's
just have some arguments regarding the code sections and the violation that was imposed.
okay. All right. Okay. Ms. Carmody, do you have any witnesses?
I do.
And
s-
you,
Sorry.
your witness is?
Supervisor Kenneth Paralak.
Okay. Ms. Paralek, would you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, thank you. You can place your hand down. Ms. Carmody, you can put your case on and call your witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This violation in question is a violation notice issued by the department to
Okay, just one moment.
Hold
yeah,
on.
we're getting some feedback or something. Mr. Paralek, it may be your area. So if there's some interference coming from somewhere, you may need to move.
I'm in my office. I can't move.
Okay.
I'm hardwired to it. I
Are
can
you
mute
using
myself.
are you using earphones or something?
No, I'm not.
Okay, Mr. Wade, is there anything that you can help with this?
I'll keep an eye. It's not Ken though.
It's not him?
Let me see. I'll just mute him when he's not testifying.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, Ms. Carmody, please proceed.
Okay. As I was saying, the violation in question is it's a violation notice issued by the department to Brulin Properties LLC in February 2024. And at this time, the city would call its witness supervisor, Ken Paralak.
Mr. Chair, did you swear in the witness?
Yes, yes.
I'll try to space things so we can mute and unmute him so to avoid an echo. But Mr. Paralak, would you please state your name and your occupation?
My name is Kenneth Paralak. I work for License and Inspection, Audits and Investigation Unit. I'm currently the manager.
And how long have you held this position?
As manager, it just started this month. I was a supervisor for the unit for a year and a supervisor for the construction inspection unit for a year prior to that.
Okay. And are you familiar with Brulin Properties LLC?
Yes, I am.
And how are you familiar with the LLC?
So they're the contractor listed for 2423 North 56th Street.
Okay. I am going, if I may share my screen.
Yes, please.
Just let me know when this appears.
I can see it.
Okay, I'm going to, just for the record, Exhibit C1 is a copy of the appellant's appeal request form. I'm just going to move forward to Exhibit C2. Okay, and I will zoom in. Can you please explain what this document is?
This is a license violation notice.
And who was this issued to?
Brulin Properties LLC.
And what is the date of this notice?
Can you make that a little bit bigger? I'm not gonna
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, that's 2/9/2024.
Okay. I'm going to scroll down just a bit. Can you, what is the violation at issue listed in this notice of violation?
The violation is failure to maintain proper insurance and to provide proof of continued coverage by submitting renewal certificates to the department will result in the revocation or non-renewal of the license.
Okay, and can you just read the description of violation right next to that portion you just read?
Worker compensation exempt form expired 11/8/2023.
Okay, and what is a workers' compensation exempt form?
So when you're a sole proprietor, you're claiming that you have no workers. So you have to have a notarized form every year stating every year as just as your auto and general liability insurance expires and has to be renewed every year, your workers' compensation exempt form has to be updated every year and it has to be notarized.
Okay, and that was my next question. So this needs to be updated or provided to the department every year?
Yes.
Okay, and at the time this violation was issued on February 9th, 2024, was there a current notarized document as you described on file for Brulin Properties LLC?
Yes, and it expired November 3rd of 2023.
Okay, so a few months before the violation was written.
Yes.
Okay, so is it your opinion that this violation was validly issued?
It was.
Okay, and just for the record, could you just state that specific code section cited on the left side of the page that's highlighted?
9-1045C.
Thank you. I'm going to move to Exhibit C3. And I'm just, I'm now showing the current code language of that section 9-1045C. If it's large enough, could you please read this highlighted portion for the record?
So number 5 says insurance requirements. C, failure to maintain proper insurance and provide proof of continued coverage by submitting renewal certificates to the department will result in the revocation or non-renewal of the license.
So in interpreting this language, even if an entity has up-to-date insurance, the department requires proof of that coverage.
Yes, keyword, provide proof.
And if an entity is exempt from the workers' compensation requirements, they also would need to provide proof of that exemption as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to move down to City Exhibit C4, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay. Can you describe what this document is?
That, can you open that up a little more?
Yeah.
No, you're making it smaller.
Sorry.
I'm reading off of a laptop. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yes. So it's addressed to Berlin Properties LLC. And it says, Dear Sir or Madam, this letter will confirm that I am the owner of Berlin Properties LLC.
Objection.
What is the objection?
It's not addressed to Berlin Properties LLC. It's addressed to the city of Philadelphia.
Okay,
correct.
sustained.
My
So
mistake.
please restate your answer, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's addressed to the City of Philadelphia Department of License and Inspections. And the letter states, this letter will confirm that I am the owner of Berlin Properties LLC and that we have no employees and therefore do not carry workers' compensation insurance.
Okay. And what is the date at the top of this letter right above the city of Philadelphia?
March 20th, 2019.
Okay. And does it appear to be notarized?
It does.
Okay. So how long would this letter that was sent in 2019 cover Berlin Properties for their workers' comp exemption?
1 year from the date of notarization.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to scroll down now to Exhibit C5 and similar questions. Can you please explain what this document is?
It's the same document for a different year addressed to the City of Philadelphia. It says, this letter will confirm that I am the owner of Berlin Properties LLC and that we have no employees and therefore do not carry workers' compensation insurance, dated November 3rd, 2022.
Okay. And it appears to be, does it appear to be notarized as well?
It does.
Okay, so based on this date, at the top of this letter would be valid for until about November of 2023?
Correct.
Okay. And now on to City Exhibit C6. And just lastly, again, this document.
It's the same document, another year, February 20th, 2024, addressed to the City of Philadelphia. This letter will confirm that I am the owner of Berlin Properties LLC, and that I have no employees and therefore am exempt from and do not carry workman's compensation insurance. Furthermore, I had no employees during the period November 28, 2023 to present, nor have I ever had any employees.
Okay, so the date at the top of this letter, February 20th, 2024, this was after the violation notice was issued, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, does this letter satisfy the insurance requirements for Berlin Properties LLC at this time?
From the date it was issued on, not from the date prior.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Carter, do you have any cross-examination?
I do. I have a couple questions. I am not as computer savvy. I don't have an ability to put the documents on the screen to share. So may I cross-examine using the attorney's documents?
You're referencing the attorney's exhibits that were up earlier?
Correct.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Ms.
Thank
Carmody,
you.
please, can you accommodate that request?
If you can please show the code section again where the violation occurred.
Yes. Is that large enough for the screen for everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, sir, you had stated that in our violation that we received is section 5C on the screen, failure to maintain proper insurance. Do you contend that Berlin Properties failed to maintain proper insurance, or that they simply failed to submit the letter stating that they were exempt from having insurance?
They failed to provide proof.
Okay, so did they fail to maintain proper insurance?
They failed to provide proof. That's the
Can
violation.
you answer my question? Did Berlin
Mr. Carter,
Properties,
he responded, he answered your question twice.
but I'm looking for a yes or no. Did they fail to maintain proper insurance?
I don't have that document in front of me. Can you show that to me?
Well, if there is an exemption form, doesn't that indicate that they're exempt from requiring insurance? So there's no insurance required. They did not maintain proper insurance.
It's failure to provide proof of insurance, whether it's
Okay, but
general
Mr.
liability.
No, wait a minute, hold on a minute. Mr. Carter, you can make argument,
okay.
but you've asked the question several different ways. His response has been the same. So please move on.
Okay. So where in the code does it address exemption certificates for workers' compensation?
So when it's to provide proof of insurance. If you do not have proof, if you do not have workers' compensation insurance on your Eclipse account, there's a box at the top where you upload all your documents yearly. There's a box up there that says exempt. You check that box off. If you check that box off, you're required to provide proof, which is a notarized statement saying that you have no employees.
My question was, where in the code does it address workers' compensation exemption certificates?
I don't have that code in front of me right here. All I have is that insurance requirements are required. Insurance is workman's compensation. If you
Correct.
don't have workman's compensation, you have to provide a document saying that we're exempt from it, and it's got to be notarized. We're not just going to take your word for it.
The second part of the code, the first says failure to maintain proper insurance and to provide proof of continued coverage by submitting renewal certificate. Is an exemption certificate, would you agree, is different than a renewal certificate for an insurance policy?
It's different than a renewal certificate.
Okay,
You're not
thank you.
renewing.
Thank you. You stated that the February 2024 letter that was notarized and uploaded to Eclipse satisfied the insurance requirements. Where in the code does it say that that satisfies the insurance requirements?
You provided proof that you have no employees from that date on. From the day before that, you did not provide proof. The code is right in front of you. It's on the screen. That's the code.
Where in the code does it say that an exemption certificate expires after 1 year?
Your insurance expires after 1 year. Therefore, all new certificates need to be uploaded.
Okay, so that's an implication that you're making. That's not in the code, correct?
So if you uploaded a document 20 years ago, we're supposed to accept that same document? No, every
Okay,
year.
wait,
when your
Mr. Perillet, your job is to respond as directly as possible to the questions that are asked of you. There's
Okay.
no need for additional wording or argument. The lawyer will do the arguing. That's not your job.
Understood.
Okay, Mr. Carter?
I have. Does the board have copies of my submissions that I made? There are 4 of them that I uploaded.
Yes, but if you want to use them, in your presentation, we would expect you to be able to put them up.
Okay, I don't have the ability to do that, unfortunately.
Did you have any further questions of Mr. Paralak?
I do.
Based on his testimony.
Mr. Paralak, are you aware of how long an OSHA card is good for?
Mr.
5
Cutter,
years.
how does that relate to his testimony?
I'll tie it in in my argument.
Okay, well, wait till your argument then. I want to cross-examination on his testimony. If he didn't
Okay.
testify by OSHA, you can't cross on that.
Okay, I feel like I'm at a disadvantage because I can't.
Well, you may be, but that you're an attorney of record, you're a practicing attorney.
I
You
know.
know how to come prepared. So I'm
I'm
not
not
sure
used
what
to
to say.
Zoom. I'm an old-fashioned courtroom person. I don't.
Well, we've
I
been
don't
doing this for multiple since 2020, so I'm not sure
Yeah.
what to say to you.
Okay.
You have any additional questions to
No, I
Mr.
don't.
Paralak?
I don't.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Ms. Carmody, any additional witnesses?
No, no additional witnesses. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions of Mr. Paralak? No? Okay, thank you. Mr. Carter, this is your opportunity. Now,
Okay.
before you start though, you presented you wanted to make it your presentation as in argument format. So
Correct.
I'll ask Ms. Carmody to feel free to respond and ask each of you to be as succinct and short as you can be rather than
Okay.
expansive.
Sure,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are here today accused of violating section 9-1004 subsection 5C of the Philadelphia Code. The language of the code states failure to maintain proper insurance, and so both prongs must be met, to provide proof of continued coverage by submitting renewal certificates to the department. Berlin Properties did not fail to maintain proper insurance. Section 9-1004 subsection 5A1 states all contractors licensed under this section shall maintain workers' compensation where applicable. The company has no employees and is therefore exempt from maintaining workers' compensation insurance. The violation fails on the first prong. We did not fail to maintain proper insurance. Berlin Properties, as I said, has no employees. We use subcontractors. We were audited on January 26, 2024. I refer you to my submitted document number 2, which is an email from the Audits and Investigations Unit requesting that we complete and submit a subcontractor audit form. That is also attached, the completed form, which listed every subcontractor we used, and they all have workers' compensation insurance. I submitted this audit form on February 2nd, 2024, and 1 week later, we were issued the violation and $1,000 fine. Continuing to the second prong, failure to provide proof of continued coverage by submitting a renewal certificate to the department. There is no coverage, there is no renewal certificate. In practice, when applying for a trade license with the City of Philadelphia, you must submit, as Mr. Paralak said, a notarized letter stating that you are exempt from workers' compensation. I cannot find this requirement delineated in any area of the code. We submitted this letter on Eclipse. It was dated and notarized on November 3rd, 2022. That is document number 1 in my exhibits. On the violation notice, it states that the exemption form expired on November 28th, 2023. The form, as I said, the letter was dated November 3rd. It was notarized November 3rd, but this is another error on the notice, which stated that it expired November 28th. I don't know why it would expire the 28th if the letter was dated on the 3rd. If there was an expiration date, which I submit there is not, it should be November 3rd, not November 28th. Again, there is no guidance that I could find in the code regarding an exemption letter. So there is no determination as to when it expires. It is not an insurance policy with coverage dates. I did find from looking through the code to try to figure this out that there is a code section 9-1004 subsection 6A that states that if you have a change in any of your information, that you must notify the department in writing within 10 days of any change. And we have had no change. We have no employees. We have no workers' comp insurance. There was never a change. Once the exemption letter is uploaded to Eclipse, you can't see it anymore. Referring to my submitted documents number 4 and number 5, number 4 is a screenshot of the Eclipse page showing submitted documents. If you look at the documents, you'll notice that in the area to the right of the submitted documents name or label, that there are there's an effective date space and an expiration date space. And there is no information in those areas next to workers' compensation exemption form and also OSHA card, which I had mentioned before. There are coverage dates listed on there for liability insurance and automobile insurance. From looking at the code, the OSHA requirement is stated in code section 9-1004 subsection 4B. The OSHA requirement is every 5 years. There's no mention of a workers' compensation exemption form. On the screenshotted page where it lists all the submitted documents, if you look all the way to the left of the heading that says attachment type, there are icons that go down the left side of the page. There's an icon of a document next to each document that was submitted. When you click on it, you should be able to see the document. Document number 5 shows the error message that I see whenever I click on any of those icons. So once something is submitted to Eclipse, you cannot access it to even see if there was an expiration date, when that would be. No notice was given. When I went to the Municipal Services Building to file the appeal, I spoke with others that were waiting. I spoke with the city employee with whom I filed the appeal. They all stated that they received, or we should have received, a notice. We received no notice. We were hit with a fine of $1,000. The purpose of the code . Excuse me for one moment. I need to find my copy of the code. Here it is. Section 9-1004, paragraph 1, declaration of purpose. The purpose of this section, this is the section where we were cited. What is the purpose of the section? Is to provide standards for construction contracting, in part, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, that protect public health and safety. The city also recognizes the importance of collecting appropriate fees. The health and safety of the public was never at risk in this alleged violation that we were charged with. We had no employees. If anyone was hurt, they were not employees, so no one could have been hurt and not covered by workers' compensation insurance. Everyone that worked on the job, as I listed in the audit, had insurance. The city also recognizes the importance of collecting appropriate fees. This $1,000 fee is not appropriate. It is egregious. I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Carmody?
I have nothing further at this time.
Okay, thank you. The board will please join me in a short recess. We'll go off the record while the.
Sorry, if I may, I'm sorry. If it's not too late, can I just give a quick closing remark?
Okay.
I wasn't sure if I was moving for cross or moving for closing. I do have a brief closing, if I may.
Yes, please.
Okay. To members of the board, it is the city's position that this violation was validly issued. The appellant reasonably knew that they needed to provide these exemption forms in a timely manner. They have a history of doing so in both 2019 and 2022, and even did so shortly after this violation was issued, after receiving the notice of the violation. Appellant is now current on their insurance requirements as required by the code. However, at the time of the violation's issuance, there was no such exemption form on file to notify the department whether they were up to date on their insurance. Even if the LLC maintained the proper insurance requirements as an entity that isn't required to have workers' comp insurance, the city had no way of verifying whether they were meeting their requirements without this exemption form. And that the not knowing is where the life, health, and safety issues come in. Absent this notarized letter, which has since been provided, the violation, it is the city's position that the violation is validly issued, and we would respectfully request a holding of city affirmed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. We will go off the record for a moment to deliberate. Ask my colleagues to join me in the breakout room. Thank you. Mr. Kelly, I think we're prepared to go back on the record. Thank you. With regard to HA-2024-000-790, 2423 North 56th Street, Berlin Properties LLC. We've heard all the arguments and testimony that was provided by both the appellant and the city. We're now prepared to vote. I will begin with appeal sustained.
Appeal sustained.
Appeal sustained.
Appeal sustained. Okay, thank you. Mr. Saketa, you won your appeal.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good afternoon.
You too.
Ms. Carmody, you and your witness are excused for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr.
Good
Wade,
job,
do we have
Pam.
do we have 1/8 case open, Mr. Wade? Did we get everybody?
That was the last case.
That was the last case? I thought that we had a oh, we did take care of Mr. Glenn Brown on number 8. Okay, that was my question. Oh, I know what it was. There was we put in the breakout room Mr. Golkowski.
Yeah, they just must have had discussion that remained continued.
Remain continued. Okay.
They never came back in executive session.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Kelly, we're done for today. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Chair and board members.
Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night, sir.
Fantastic holiday.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
You too.
Yeah, we won't see each other for a few weeks. Okay. Enjoy.